All around this world, there are people who have never once had the opportunity to hear an adequate gospel message. Could you imagine being born, raised your whole life, and die without ever once having the opportunity to respond in faith? This is Sent Cinema, where we highlight the mission of God and those that He has sent out. My name is Kody Barbier. My wife and I have been missionaries on the field since 2014 in East Africa. And today we have the opportunity to speak with someone who is playing a part of reaching souls in South America. Jessica, I would like to invite
Hi,
you to tell us about yourself and your family.
my name is Jessica Wolf. I am a missionary associate to Peru. I am currently raising funds to arrive there. I live in Western Louisiana with my family. My mom, who was raised AG, who raised us in AG, or Assemblies of God, which is where I'm being sent from. And I have two sisters, one older, who is married, and they are worship pastors in Fairhope, Alabama. And they have three kids. And I have a twin sister who lives in South Louisiana. She is a teacher. And so we're all in ministry in some capacity. It looks different for all of us, but we all grew up in church and missions. And so it's always been a part of our lives. And so that's a lot of the reason why I am doing what I'm doing. And I'm thankful for it. I don't think I would be where I was if I didn't have, looking back, certain things that happened or certain people that came into my life. And so, yeah, it's been a blessing.
That's great. That's great. So you're there right now. You stay in North Central
Mm-hmm.
Louisiana, right? In
Yes.
Monroe,
Yeah.
and your family, they have been. Well, let me ask you this way: how did you come to faith in Christ?
Well, I always say we were birthed in church. I know
Yeah.
my mom, because we've always been there. Like every week, it was like we went. My mom took us there. My dad doesn't really go to church or anything like that, but my mom took us every week, and we did all the things, the classes, the youth group, missions raising. Like we were just kind of immersed in it all the
Hmm.
time. We did drama, we did worship team. We spent like practically the whole week there. Like, and so,
Always doing something, right?
right, yeah.
Always
So
staying
I
busy.
think, yeah, my mom said that we said a prayer with her when we were 6 before bed. But I think it wasn't serious, I think,
Hmm.
until I was a teenager and I had a really good youth group,
Yeah.
a really solid youth group with a amazing youth pastors. And I'm one of those people that had the same youth pastor from 8th grade until I graduated.
Wow.
And
That's a
so that
blessing.
consistency in itself,
Yeah.
in youth ministry anyway, was good for me because I am a person who kind of likes consistency and not change very much. And so it was youth and like between like 13 to 20 would be the time where I think I really got serious about um, God and I was called to missions when I was a teenager. And so that has always been where it all kind of
Yeah.
really culminated into a calling, I guess you could say, because missions has kind of always been a part of my upbringing.
Hmm.
My church has always been a really big missions oriented church. We wrote letters to missionaries as a kid. Um, and so I've had pen pals that were, missionary kids. And so it's always been a part of my life.
And those things kept missions on your
Yes.
mind.
Yes.
And how you had talked about your calling into missions. How did you say that? Would you say that God led you to
Uh,
become a missionary?
I would say the consistency of it always being there um, was a big part of it. I remember in our class when I was in like 5th and 6th grade, I said that we were missionaries. Um, and it's cool because this past year I've gotten to meet some of the missionaries because they've retired and taken
Yeah.
churches, or I've gotten to be at a service with them and be a part of a mission service with missionaries that have been in the ministry for like 40 years.
Wow.
And to be like, hey, here's that letter that you sent back to me.
That's
Like I
so
have a
cool.
postcard from, certain people where I'm like, hey, you sent this to me when I was in 5th grade.
Wow.
And so it's been really cool because like the Holloways, who I'm going to go work with, are
Yeah.
also like, they've been in missions for a long time. And so they were a name or a face and stories that I heard when I was in church. And so the stories and the consistency of missions in my life was always there.
Yeah.
And because I never went on a mission trip until 20. And then when I was like 16, I remember there was a missions conference. There used to be a missions conference called Shake the Nations. And it was in Lake Charles at Glad Tidings Church. And I remember we almost weren't going to be able to go because it was football season, and my sister and I were in the marching band. And so like Louisiana and football season, high
It's a
school.
big deal.
Yeah. And so we were like, well, we're not gonna be able to go because we have to be at the game. And I remember our youth pastor was like, just wait and we'll see what happens. And it turned out that game that weekend was at the school that's like 3 blocks from the church where this conference was at.
Wow.
And
That
so we
really,
went
that's
to
a
the game. Yeah. So we were able to kind of like meet all the criteria. So we went to the game, we did the halftime show, and then we got permission to leave.
wow.
And we drove down to the church. And that's what, like, I can remember, I've been to the church a few times since then. And I can see the sanctuary. I could be like, I could tell you where I was sitting.
Yeah.
I could tell you, I can't remember who was speaking, but I could tell you, a little bit about their sermons and all that kind of stuff. And so that was where God really kind of cemented the calling. And then once I
And
graduated
you
high
were
school,
you were you're about
I was a sophomore, I think.
okay. So like
Yeah.
15, 16.
Yeah, and then I graduated from high school, and I interned in El Salvador, where I was previously assigned for 2 summers, and that was when God kind of was like, now's the time,
Wow.
because the calling and the going
Yeah.
aren't always, they're not at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so at that time, as a teenager, I felt the calling. It wasn't a time where I could go. And I had opportunities to go on trips before, but they always fell through. So I didn't go on my first missions trip until I was like 21. And so it was different because
Wow.
like I remember church, in church you see the stories of missionaries. Like when we go and we talk, they hear our stories and they see our pictures. It's a whole lot different when you go and you put your foot, and though it's like it becomes 4D, like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's not just a picture anymore. It's like it
Exactly.
adds dimension to,
Exactly.
hey, well, the calling is deeper now, and it like cements it.
That's good. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And so, going on these mission trips, interning it with missionary, all these things have happened. Now you're like multiple years in. I think I saw on your website where you started in 2005 going on your
Yeah,
first mission trip.
that was the first trip. Yeah.
And so now it's, 15 years later
Mhm.
and you're going into another assignment. What has
Right.
been the best part about being a missionary?
I think it is, for me, being able to be a part of God moving in another culture and
That's
seeing
awesome.
that it's the same but different, you know, um, and how adaptive you have to be, but the gospel message never changed.
Yeah.
Um, and then I worked in a Bible school where we trained young people from Latin America to go on the mission field. And
That's cool.
I had so many teams that would come from the States or from Canada and would be like, I didn't know other countries sent missionaries. And so it's so cool to see that the call of go and tell is universal.
Yeah,
It is not, well, those people in the States, go.
exactly.
It,
Exactly.
and it's been different to see how, they fundraise like we do, but it's in a different culture. And so, and they have such a passion for it. There would be times, because obviously at the time I was living their dream. I'm already
Yeah.
on the field, and I would be working with them, and they'd be like, I'm ready to go, and I'm ready. And then, I'd hear them preach, and I'm like, I want to go. And I'm like, wait, I'm already doing that. And so like their passion was kind of contagious. Um, and so it was really cool because it kept me seeing that, hey, it kept my calling fresh, I guess you could
Yeah,
say, um, and not complacent.
that's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, it
And
was
you were
neat.
directly able to invest into young
Right.
folks who were planning to be missionaries
Yeah.
themselves. And can you tell us a little bit about why it's important for the and local churches in these countries to raise up and train their own missionaries?
I think, well, from a standpoint of where I'm going, um, language for
Yeah,
one thing. Because obviously, we're gonna go and we're gonna learn language, but it's not gonna be like we land there and the language just comes.
yes,
It's gonna take a bit for us to get beyond a conversational, deeper level.
yeah,
And I remember Bob Holloway. He says that it doesn't take much in the Cusco region off the beaten path to find people that don't speak Spanish, which
yeah,
is what I've been, learning for, years. Um, and he was like, they might know it, but they, beyond regular conversation, they might not. And so I tell people, I'm like, when you go on that mission trip, I'm like, that handful of Spanish words that you have where you can kind of do conversation, like, where's the bathroom, or hi and goodbye. And
exactly.
um, that might be the only words that someone else knows. And so if like I came up to you and you know those Spanish words and I preach to you in Spanish, it's not going to really have an effect on you because you
Yeah,
don't know the language. It's not your heart language.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I think for it is always important to, on a local level where we land, to have people that are discipled and trained to go, um, because they technically can go further than we can, and they
exactly.
extend the reach. That's what I always tell supporting churches, that like they're, well, we couldn't go without the financial help of churches.
Yeah,
So the churches extend our reach, and then we reach the locals or the
yeah,
indigenous people who extend our reach even further. And so it's like a
exactly.
chain where we each have a part in it, and if one
Mhm.
part's gone, then the chain is broken. And so we're all equally important in this ministry.
And so, where you were at previously, the church had time to form and develop
Right.
a strong, healthy body to be able to raise up and send out their own missionaries. But where you're
Hmm.
going
Yeah.
is a different.
It's very different. The ministry that I was previously involved with, it was um, about 30 years old,
Yeah,
and had spread. It was countrywide, and El Salvador itself is actually pretty small, and so, and Peru is like really large.
yeah.
You could cross the country in El Salvador in like 4 hours.
Wow.
In Peru, where we're gonna be in Cusco, if you were, we have to take a flight from
Yeah.
Lima. It's like 17 hours away, uh,
Wow.
and so it is I guess a bigger country, but also the ministry is not as developed, and it's in a area where there is no church.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you can go with this form of like normal church. what church looks like to us. Like we're going to
Yeah.
go and we're going to build a building. We're going to give them a sound system, church.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
not, we are very much finding new strategies to reach them that aren't going to look like normal
Yeah.
church, but are sustainable for the people there, home
Exactly.
church, or
Exactly.
it, it's just going to look different.
Yeah. So what are the current religious sects that are there in that now?
um,
And in the people group specifically is called the
the Quechua.
Quechua. And
Uh-huh.
I looked on joshuaproject.net and they had like 30 different
Yeah.
subtribes of the
Yeah,
Quechua.
I don't know them all. I just know that it is one of the largest unreached people group in Latin America. I think there's like 1.5 between 1.5 and 2 million people, and with that kind of, I think with that kind of numbers, I think the different variations of, I guess, religions
Yeah.
are probably all over the place, because if there is no, I guess, doctrine of anything.
Yeah.
I know there is a lot of like pagan. I know that they do like sacrifice and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, and so it it's a little bit, I guess, for me, because I was kind of like raised in church, and then it's going to be a different kind of setting to be in a place where, I guess, the normal church doesn't exist.
Yeah. The church
Um,
as you know it. And
yeah, I guess you could,
and
it's kind of like with language learning. When you're learning a new language, you have to kind of like throw out the grammar and what you know about English to learn this new language.
yeah.
It's kind of the same. It's like you can't concentrate on, well, we're doing it different and I don't like it. You
Yeah.
kind of have to like, we need to do it different because it looks different and it
Yeah.
is different.
Exactly. So what are some differences that you've seen in your work in El Salvador that would be different than a church in America?
I feel like that the culture itself that differs from the States is that El Salvador, from a standpoint of, I guess, like religious freedom, like there isn't, because in the States, a youth pastor or a group can't go into a school and mention Jesus. They
Yeah.
can't, um, you know, people get offended if you mention Jesus in certain places. Well, in El Salvador, like there is no issue there. We would go into schools and preach and do programs, and like even God bless you is like I guess like a greeting or something like that, where it's just like, oh, God bless you, God bless you. Whereas like in the States, we are, I guess, some people are more easily offended if you
Yeah.
mention God, and so I guess it feels more free sometimes,
Yeah.
where um and and it's hard to explain that to the like to some of the Salvadorans. Are like, well,
Yeah.
what about this? And I'm like, oh, it doesn't, you can't do that. uh and they don't understand it, but it's just really hard to explain to them.
Yeah.
But I feel like that from a standpoint of what, I guess, um the government likes to try to like stifle the church in some way,
Yeah.
or people, and that in El Salvador they don't really have that problem.
Wow. Well, that's great. What are some of like big goals that you have for your future as you go into this new region of Cusco, Peru?
Well, to get there first, huh?
Yeah. So tell us about
uh,
that. What are your plans and
well, I'm hoping in the next, depending on the situation and as we follow it, um, depending on finances, to get there in the next few months. But that all depends on um, the current situation, and also um, if the borders are open.
yeah,
Uh, and so we're just going to have to kind of figure that out. It's not impossible, but it is something that I think you have to monitor differently now.
yeah.
But hopefully I'll land there soon.
Awesome. And now there are some other aspects that are kind of holding you back right now as well, right? Your finance, like just finishing up your budget, and what does that look
Yes.
like?
Yes.
How do you raise a budget, and what does that entail?
I was um doing services. I had some services and then some meetings, but obviously being, what's going on right
In
now,
quarantine.
yeah, not leaving my house,
Exactly.
uh kind of in a way stifled that on a face to face in person um, standpoint. Now, that is not to say that it is not impossible to kind of like maneuver,
Yeah.
because obviously, with what we're doing now, um, communication is still a thing,
Yeah.
and having meetings is still a thing. It's just a matter of logistics. And so
Exactly.
I think it is not impossible, but hopefully in the next few months I will be able to kind of make everything kind of come together, and when the borders are open I will be able to go.
That's great. So, people will be able to contact you. We'll post your links for your giving website. We'll post contact information so
Awesome.
people can get in touch with you and see how they can get on board, because you still have a small percentage left to raise
Yes.
before you'll be able to be sent out.
Hmm.
Before we go, can you just tell us like a funny experience that you've had on the
On the
mission
field.
field?
Okay. um I remember the one that pops in my head is I remember we were when leaders have birthdays we like to buy them a cake. And so I remember they were like, one of the other missionaries that works with in the Bible school with us had a birthday coming up, and so they were like, Jessica, can you go pick up this cake? Well, and I don't remember why I didn't take my car, but we took another missionary's car, and then I grabbed a student and we went. And the road to our property, about the last like 2 or 3 miles, is like, once the rains come, they only like flatten it like twice a year. So once the rains come and wash a lot of the road away, it takes like 20 minutes just to go down that road because you're having
Wow.
to like maneuver through potholes. And we were late getting it, so we were like, this place is going to close and we're not going to get this cake. Um, and so we get there, we get down the street and we take, I don't remember how we got to where we were at, but we took a wrong turn, and so we got directions off. The driver, the other missionary that was with us, liked to use Google Maps, and I like to use Waze because it works better. Because Waze tends to give you the most traveled, where the most traffic goes, and Google Maps just gives you the best possible route, even if it's going through the forest for like 10 miles, and you really don't want to do that in El Salvador. So we ended up going like this roundabout way, and then this noise happens in the car, and we'd run over something and the tire had exploded.
Wow.
And so we get to the gas, we are close to a gas station, and so he has to quickly change the tire. This took about half an hour. It was like an ordeal. And so they're waiting for us to get back with this cake, but not tell the guy that it's for, because like they're trying to keep him occupied or whatever. And so we get to this cake place, and if anyone's been to a foreign country and you go to like uh, the little lady with the cakes, like
Yeah.
it's not a brand, it's like a little cake lady. So it's like a little store. It's not even as big as like it's like a storeroom.
Yeah.
uh, and so we finally got it, because I remember the first time they went to get a cake from her, uh, uh, and it was like three U.S. people that came in there. She was like, "It's just like the movies." Apparently, she never had
It
anybody
never had
anybody come
Americans
in
in her.
before. Yeah, it was interesting. But we get the cake and we get back to the camp, and it was like a 007 mission, like we're like trying to get the cake in the cafeteria because he's nearby. And it ended up being great. We have some pictures because the tradition with Salvadorans or Latin America is that you pick up the cake and you take a bite out of it. and someone's usually going to shove your face in the cake. And so I remember he literally looked like he was like at like a soccer game or something with like the painted face, because it was like red and blue and white, because they shoved his face so deep in that cake. It was but
It was
yeah,
all
it
worth
was,
it by that time, right?
yeah, we were like, finally we got this cake here. Yeah, it was an ordeal.
Well, that's awesome. It's always an ordeal in another country to
Yeah,
do one
yeah,
thing. It's like, I
yeah.
just wanted to get a cake.
But then the if you have any of the locals with you, they're like, wow, this is fine.
Yeah,
But like
exactly.
you're like, oh, the locals are like, it's fine.
It's like, this happens every day.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. So, um, with the mission field that you're going to be encountering people who have never had an opportunity. Many of them have never had an opportunity to hear the gospel presented completely in a way that they can personally respond in faith. And so that's what you're going there to do, is to help form the church, help reach a unevangelized area in Cusco, Peru. Is that
Hmm.
right? And you're
Hmm.
going to be serving under missionaries Bob and Lisa Holloway,
Hmm.
and so they left what what a year and a half
Yeah,
ago,
I think it's a
year ago,
ish at the like November-ish. I think it's like 2 years.
and
I
then
can't remember the exact date, but it's about 2 years, I think.
awesome, and they started forming that mission, and then you're going to go and assist them as a
Hmm.
career missionary associate to continue that work and to build pathways of sharing the gospel with the Quechua people group. And like I said, anyone can go on to joshuaproject.net and just look up this people group. And there's 30. It's amazing. There's 30 different sub tribes, and just
Hmm.
one of the tribes is known for living in Cuscos, and I think it alone has 2 million people. So it's amazing the magnitude of this work out there, that still they have millions upon millions of people who have not had that opportunity to respond in faith like we do in America. Every single day we have the opportunity to respond in faith, and there are people who, for many different reasons, sometimes it's just hard to get to them, sometimes there's language barriers, and other things, but they have not yet had that opportunity. So I'm so excited about what you guys are doing. I'm excited for your partnership with the Holloways, and that they've already started working and blazing the trail, forming that mission so that you can be part of it. And it's so important that we get you there. And so, is there any ways that we can specifically pray for you as you're setting to depart, or in these final days that you have left in the States?
Yes, finances for one,
Okay.
and then of course the current situation with the quarantine and everything about
Because until the travel bans are lifted,
right,
you're stuck in America.
right, yeah, and that seems to vary country to country. Probably
Yeah.
you're not going to have the same answer from and then of course like what the airport and the airlines depending but uh just for, I guess, connections to be made in different uh, untraditional sense, I guess you
Yeah.
could say, because obviously we're living in times that no one's had to go through before, and
Yeah.
so
There's
there
no
be
books.
just
There's no books for
yeah, like
fundraising
there's
in
no
this in
grandmother that
quarantine.
when my first pandemic, like no one, this is everyone's first pandemic. And so I think uh adjustment to what this might look like to missions going forward, because
Yeah,
we don't know, this could change the entire footprint of what we're doing
exactly.
in ways that we don't know yet. And so I think and I think that for the church as well. And so like I've been praying for the church and what's this going to look like for missions from a church standpoint, just like they can pray for me on what it looks like for me
Yeah.
as a missionary. Um, because I think on all fronts, this isn't just affecting one side. This is affecting where we're going and where we're coming from.
Yeah.
And so it's not anything that we've ever seen before.
Exactly. It's a new territory for all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
How can we partner with you in other ways, in finances and in giving gifts, and what can we do? Is there any ways that we can specifically partner with you to help you get to the field, or to bring stuff to the field, or to
Um,
send laborers to the field, or anything like that?
there obviously, I guess in the current situation, I I don't know. But we're always wanting people to be connected to us. I like I love doing missions in the with the technology that we have,
Yeah.
because I think that we are able to be connected with more people, whether they give to us or they're just like they just want to know what we're doing, or they're prayer partners. Um, that is one of the coolest things. I'm glad that we have them. I know that,
Yeah.
um, because obviously what we're going through now, it's been a tremendous tool in the church and mission still going forward.
Exactly.
Um, and so, uh, yeah, I think I just like being connected to people,
Yeah.
whether that be email or anything like that. When I get on the field, I might have a better idea on connecting on a like team or coming
Yeah.
on a individual basis. Um, but because I don't know what it looks like yet,
Yeah.
um, I don't have too much information on that. But I
Yeah.
can point you to different resources where if you have some kind of calling yourself on missions, that you can kind of get plugged in to be like what the process is, because um, whether you're going on your own or through an organization, that there is like a I guess paperwork kind of thing you have to go through to kind of get started, and that doesn't happen overnight either, because a lot of times you have to get to a certain point before you can even start fundraising. And so just knowing the process you have to go through to
Yeah.
get there would always be a good thing.
So anyone interested in becoming a missionary, or
Yes.
or or seeing what it's like on the field, they can email you and get
Mm-hmm.
connected with you, and
Yeah.
you're ready to give them resources and
Right.
direct them in the
Yeah.
right
I
path.
know there's a website called Wide Open Missions
Yeah.
that is through the Assemblies of God, which is the organization that I go through, uh, and they always have a list by area of the world of what is available there, or what is the need is there, whether it be media or uh, school administrative or something like that. That's all listed there.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Jessica,
No problem.
for visiting with us today. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we close?
We're going through a tough time right now. I think this is a time where we just need to connect with people again in
Yeah.
non-traditional senses, like we can't meet face to face, but I think more than ever that the church and its people need to um, be the church.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think because of I've been praying for people, because quarantine and staying home has so much more effect than just your physical self. Um, it really affects whether you're extrovert or introvert.
Yeah.
Being told to stay home
Mhm.
affects your mental health.
Yeah,
And so I think it is always good to check on people,
exactly.
check on people, and it doesn't even have to be this huge deal. Like you could just be like, hey, are you doing okay? um,
Exactly.
because not everybody's okay.
Yeah.
um, and and I think because you can't say that it's just the pastor's job,
Yeah.
because they can't handle the load right now by themselves. And so I think it is really a time where
Well, the
the
church
church
comes
gets
together,
right. Yeah, the
links
church
arms, reach
needs
out to
to
people.
right,
That's so good.
right.
Thank you again.
I appreciate it.
Like we talked about, Jessica is preparing to go to the mission field to reach out to people who some of them may have never had the opportunity to hear a adequate presentation of the gospel. And so it's so crucial that we get behind her and help her raise out the last portion of this budget. You can do that by partnering on a monthly basis, by giving one-time offering. She said that I think most of her cash budget is raised, but she can also convert that maybe into a monthly partnership to help her get to the budget that she needs to go. And so there's only a few things that are holding her behind besides this quarantine issue. We can do our part to stand with her, to pray for her, to encourage her, to give to the mission, and to be a part of what's going on and what God has planned for Cusco's Peru and the Quichua people. Thank you so much for joining us. We look
Thank you.
forward to hearing some testimonies in the future, and you have a blessed day.
You too.
Thank you for watching this broadcast of Sent Cinema, where we highlight the mission of God and those that He is sending out. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and like and share this video recording.